The crystal stemware clinked as my family gathered around the mahogany dining table for Mom's 60th birthday celebration. The same table where 2 years ago, Grandpa had read his will, leaving me 5,000 acres of Nevada desert while my siblings received his valuable assets. To Mom, Derek raised his glass, my investment banker brother wearing his usual Savile Row suit. And to Smart Investments. His smirk in my direction wasn't subtle. I took a slow sip of wine, remembering the day of the will reading. Derek had received Grandpa's stock portfolio. Sarah, my corporate lawyer sister, got the Manhattan penthouse. And I got what they called worthless dirt. How's your land management going? Sarah asked with fake politeness, adjusting her Cartier bracelet. Still paying property taxes on sand? Mom shot her a warning look, but the damage was done. 2 years of their condescension bubbled up. Every family dinner, every holiday gathering, they'd found ways to remind me of my foolish decision to keep the land instead of selling it for pennies. Actually, I started, but Derek cut me off. You know, I have some clients interested in distressed properties, he offered magnanimously. I could probably get you 50 cents an acre. Better than paying taxes on desert. I checked my phone discreetly, reading the latest message from the Geological Survey team. Their preliminary reports had been promising, but this was different. Speaking of investments, Sarah chimed in, my firm just closed another energy sector deal. $10 billion in oil field acquisitions. She paused for effect. Real oil fields, not empty desert. Mom tried changing the subject. The salmon is lovely, isn't it? A new recipe. Remember when you wanted us to invest in your survey project? Derek laughed. What was it, 50,000 for geological studies? On desert land. I had approached them both last year, offering partnership shares in exchange for survey funding. They'd laughed me out of their offices. So I'd taken out loans, maxed out credit cards, and funded the surveys myself. That reminds me, Sarah added, Matthews Energy is looking for cheap land for solar farms. Might be your best option. I could make an introduction. Her voice dripped with fake sympathy. My phone buzzed again. The final confirmation from the survey team. $8.2 billion estimated deposit value. Multiple major oil companies requesting immediate meetings. Would anyone like more salt? Mom asked desperately. I would, I smiled, enjoying the moment. Pass the salt, please. At least the property taxes must be low, Derek continued. Not much value in sand and rocks. I sprinkled salt on my salmon, taking my time. You know, it's funny you mention value. Please, Sarah sighed, not another one of your desert development schemes. Actually, I pulled out the Geological Survey report. I was thinking more about oil development schemes. The silence that followed was worth every moment of their previous mockery. What do you mean, oil? Derek's hand froze halfway to his wine glass. The Geological Survey team confirmed it this morning, I said casually. 8.2 billion in proven reserves. Apparently, Grandpa's worthless desert sits on one of the largest untapped oil deposits in North America. Sarah's Cartier bracelet clattered against her water glass. That's impossible. The major oil companies disagree, I continued, enjoying their expressions. I have meetings next week with their acquisition teams. Though given the current bidding war, I might just develop it myself. Bidding war. Derek's banker instincts kicked in. What bidding war? 5 companies so far. I scrolled through my messages. Current top offer is $12 billion. But that seems low considering the reserve estimates. Mom's birthday cake sat forgotten as I pulled up the satellite surveys, geological reports, and drilling projections. The same data they'd refused to help fund a year ago. You could have been equal partners, I reminded them. 50,000 each for 30% stake. What's 30% of 12 billion, Derek? You're the investment banker, run the numbers. His face went from red to white as he calculated his missed opportunity. Now, I stood up, gathering my things. If you'll excuse me, I have a call with some Saudi investors. Mom, happy birthday. The salmon was delicious. I paused at the door, turning back to my stunned siblings. Oh, and Derek? About your offer of 50 cents an acre? I think I'll pass. The door closed behind me on absolute silence. Sometimes dessert is best served cold. I could hear Sarah's heels clicking against the hardwood as she followed me to the foyer. "Wait," she called out, her lawyer mask cracking. "We should discuss this as a family. Like we discussed it last year?" I turned, remembering her exact words. "Don't waste my time with desert fantasies. I deal with real estate, not sand castles." Derek appeared behind her, his banker's smile firmly in place. "Let's be reasonable. With my financial expertise and Sarah's legal knowledge. I have a team of attorneys now," I cut him off. "From Sarah's competitor firm, actually. They're quite interested in desert law." The flinch was satisfying. "And my financial advisors used to work for your bank, Derek. Before I offered them better terms." Mom appeared in the doorway, still clutching her napkin. "You knew? All this time while they were mocking my inheritance?" "Yes." I softened my tone for her. "Grandpa knew too. That's why he left me the land." The memory of his last private conversation with me surfaced. "The desert keeps its secrets," he'd said, his eyes twinkling. "But it reveals them to those patient enough to look deeper." He'd left me his old geological surveys, handwritten notes from the 1960s that had started my investigation. Grandpa knew there was oil? Sarah's legal mind was racing. We could contest the will. "The 2-year statute of limitations expired last month," I smiled. "But you'd know that, being such an excellent lawyer." Derek's phone was already out, likely pulling up land surveys of adjacent properties. "The surrounding land was purchased through shell companies over the past year," I finished. "Amazing what you can do with a good credit line and patient sellers. I believe you called it throwing money away on worthless dirt last Christmas." The Saudi investors were indeed waiting for my call, but I lingered a moment longer. This needed to be said. 2 years, I continued quietly. 2 years of snide comments at every family gathering. Of being the joke in your country club stories. The foolish sibling who got swindled with worthless desert while you got the real inheritance. Mom started to speak, but I held up my hand. "Every time I needed help, you offered mockery instead. When I asked for investment, you offered insults. When I needed partners, you could barely hide your contempt." My phone buzzed again, another oil company entering the bidding war. $14 billion now. "The drilling rights alone are worth more than both of your inheritances combined," I added. "The natural gas deposits we discovered last week? That's another $6 billion. The rare earth minerals survey comes in tomorrow, but the preliminary numbers are interesting." Sarah grabbed Derek's arm for support. Mom sank into a nearby chair. "But the best part?" I opened the front door. "There's a reason I bought all the surrounding land. This deposit? It's just the first one we found." The implications hit them like a physical blow. Derek actually staggered. "Now if you'll excuse me," I stepped outside into the warm evening air. "I have some Saudi princes waiting to discuss desert property values. Though given the latest numbers, I might just keep building my sand castle." I paused one final time, looking back at my shell-shocked family. "Mom, I'll have my office send over the paperwork for your new retirement account. I think you'll find the terms generous." The door closed behind me with a satisfying click, cutting off Derek's desperate wait. The next month transformed more than just my family dynamics. It transformed an entire region. News of the oil discovery leaked faster than expected, turning our quiet corner of Nevada into ground zero for the biggest energy rush of the decade. I watched from my newly established office in the Las Vegas corporate tower as helicopters circled the property, oil company executives desperately seeking a glimpse of their missed opportunity. The same executives who, 6 months ago, wouldn't return my calls about potential surveys. "Another offer from ExxonMobil," my assistant announced, adding to the growing pile. $20 billion all cash. "File it with the others," I replied, reviewing the latest geological reports. The Saudi delegation would arrive in an hour, and they needed to understand one critical fact. $20 billion was now an insult. Derek tried calling daily. His voicemails evolved from thinly veiled demands to increasingly desperate pleas. "Just give me 10 minutes to present some financing options," his latest message begged. "My clients are willing to offer unprecedented terms." Sarah took a different approach, sending formal legal letters suggesting family-based partnership structures. Each one more elaborate than the last, each carefully crafted to give them a piece of what they'd once mocked. I kept them all in a special folder labeled Desert Fantasies. Mom at least showed genuine remorse. I should have stopped them, she admitted during our weekly lunch, now held in my private dining room overlooking the strip. The way they treated you. Water under the bridge, I assured her, signing the documents that established her lifetime trust fund. Or should I say oil under the sand? The numbers kept growing. The initial $8.2 billion estimate proved laughably conservative. The deposit wasn't just large, it was a geological miracle, a perfect confluence of conditions that had created one of the richest oil fields discovered in the last 50 years. The secondary surveys are complete, my head geologist reported, barely containing his excitement. The formation extends further than we thought. Much further. How much further? The entire northern section. He spread out the new maps. It's all connected. Conservative estimate, 30 billion barrels. I leaned back calculating. At current oil prices. There's more, he continued. The natural gas pocket we found? It's bigger than Texas Barnett Shale. And the rare earth minerals. He shook his head in disbelief. The Chinese have already called twice today. My phone buzzed, another text from Derek. Please. Just 10 minutes. My firm's energy division. I muted it without reading further. Sarah tried ambushing me at my office, using her legal credentials to bluff her way past security. She found herself explaining her actions to federal agents instead. Turns out oil fields this size come with government protection. Your sister seemed quite insistent, my security chief noted. She's always been passionate about family assets, I replied. Though her passion seems to have grown recently. The Saudis arrived in 3 private jets, their motorcade stretching half a mile. Their initial offer made ExxonMobil's $20 billion look like pocket change. We understand the value of desert, their chief negotiator smiled. Perhaps better than your siblings? Word of their offer leaked somehow. Derek's next voicemail was slurred, desperate. Sarah's legal letters became less formal, more pleading. Even their spouses started calling, floating suggestions of family reconciliation. I focused instead on building something they'd never imagined possible. The desert that had drawn their mockery was transforming into an energy empire. The initial drilling platforms rose like mechanical giants from the sand, their shadows stretching across land that had once been worthless. Each one represented billions in future revenue, decades of production. But it was the secondary discoveries that really changed the game. 1 year after Mom's birthday dinner, I called a family meeting. Not in their prestigious offices or elegant homes, but at the site itself, the worthless desert that had become the energy sector's biggest story. Their faces as the helicopter approached were priceless. Where empty sand had stretched to the horizon, a vast complex of drilling platforms, processing facilities, and support infrastructure now dominated the landscape. A private city had sprung up to support the operations, complete with its own airport and power grid. Welcome to Desert Basin Energy, I announced as we landed. Or as you used to call it, my sand castle. Derek stumbled out of the helicopter, his designer suit already gathering dust. Sarah's high heels proved hilariously inadequate for the terrain. Mom wisely had worn practical shoes. This is. Derek gestured helplessly at the sprawling operation. Currently producing 2 million barrels per day, I finished. With projected increases to 5 million by next quarter. Would you like to guess the daily revenue? Sarah's legal training kicked in. The Saudi deal was declined, I smiled. Along with all the others. Why sell an empire when you can build one? The tour broke them completely. Each facility larger than the last, each operation revealing the true scale of what they'd dismissed. The oil was just the beginning. The natural gas processing plant alone dwarfed most refineries. And this, I said, stopping at a heavily secured facility, is why the Chinese keep calling. The rare earth mineral processing center hummed with activity, extracting elements crucial to modern technology. Elements worth more per ounce than gold. 1 year, I continued watching their expressions. 1 year since you laughed at Mom's dinner table. Care to calculate the returns on your missed investment opportunity, Derek? He'd done the math, I could see it in his face. $50,000 for a 30% stake. The number would haunt him forever. But that's not why I brought you here, I led them to the final facility. Remember when I mentioned the surrounding land? The geological survey team waited with their latest reports. Maps showing something that made the oil field look small in comparison. The entire basin, the chief geologist explained, sits on top of something unprecedented. The oil was just the surface indicator. Derek grabbed the reports, his banking experience letting him grasp the implications immediately. He actually had to sit down. He looked up, face pale. That's not possible. That's what they said about the oil, I reminded him. Turns out Grandpa's worthless desert is even more interesting than we thought. Sarah read over his shoulder, her legal mind already spinning. The mineral rights alone are already secured, I cut her off. Along with all surrounding properties. Amazing what you can accomplish when no one takes you seriously. Mom stayed quiet, but her eyes said everything. Pride mixed with regret, pride in what I'd built, regret for not stopping their mockery sooner. The Chinese delegation arrives tomorrow, I continued, followed by the Europeans. Seems everyone's suddenly interested in desert property values. Derek finally found his voice. If you let me broker the deals. My financial team sends their regards, I interrupted. They quite enjoy their new offices, the ones with views of your old bank. Sir tried next. The legal complexities are handled by your former firm's entire energy division. Amazing what a billion-dollar retainer can accomplish. The sun set behind the drilling platforms, casting long shadows across land that had transformed from worthless to priceless. Land that could have been partly theirs if they'd seen past their own arrogance. The helicopter leaves in 10 minutes, I announced. Unless you'd like to stay and watch tomorrow's announcement about what we really found under all this sand. They tried protesting, bargaining, pleading. The helicopter's rotor drowned them out. Back in the operations center, I watched their departure on the security feeds. Derek's slumped shoulders, Sarah's defeated posture, Mom's quiet dignity. My phone buzzed, confirmation of tomorrow's press conference. The world wasn't ready for what we'd discovered beneath the oil. The real treasure that Grandpa had known about all along. Sometimes I mused, watching the helicopter disappear into the desert sunset. The best revenge isn't just proving them wrong, it's proving them wrong on a scale that rewrites history. The facility's lights came on, illuminating an operation that had only begun to reveal its true potential. Somewhere I like to think Grandpa was smiling. After all, he'd written it in his notes all those years ago. The desert keeps the greatest secrets for those wise enough not to laugh at sand.